and approve the draft protocol of accession of the Union of Comoros as also appended to the report of the Working Party. The Ministerial Conference so agrees. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the decision we have just taken on the accession of the Union of Comoros to the World Trade Organization. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my congratulations to His Excellency President Azali and his entire team, and to the people and government of the Union of Comoros. With regard to the further steps toward Comoros' formal entry as a WTO member, I would like to inform the Ministerial Conference that the signing ceremony of the accession protocol by President Azali and WTO Director General Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi will take place in this room immediately following the consideration of the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. The government of the Union of Comoros will then submit the protocol for ratification by its Legislative Assembly. In keeping with WTO provisions, Comoros will become a member of the WTO 30 days following the deposit of instruments of acceptance of the protocol. It is with a great pleasure that I would like now to invite His Excellency Azali Osmani, President of Union of Comoros, to proceed to the podium to address the Ministerial Conference. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Votre Altesse Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, émir d'Abu Dhabi et président des Émirats arabes unis, Excellence Monsieur José Ramos Horta, président de la République démocratique du Timor-Leste, Excellence Monsieur Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaidou, ministre d'État au commerce extérieur des Émirats arabes unis, président de la 13e conférence ministérielle de l'OMC, Madame Ngozi Okonjo, directrice générale de l'OMC et très chère sœur, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, distingués invités et participants, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Je voudrais, à l'entame de mon propos, remercier mon frère, Son Altesse Cheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, président des Émirats arabes unis, pour l'accueil chaleureux et fraternel qui nous est réservé dans cette magnifique ville d'Abu Dhabi et pour les bonnes dispositions prises pour assurer la réussite de nos travaux. En ce moment précis, qui consacre l'adhésion des Comores à l'OMC, je ressens une profonde et légitime émotion, et pour cause, cela fait 17 ans que mon pays a formulé sa demande d'adhésion à cette importante organisation. Et cela fait 9 années depuis que mon gouvernement et moi-même menons des négociations difficiles pour atteindre cet objectif. Et voilà que Dieu a voulu que ce moment coïncide avec celui où, à la tête de l'OMC, se trouve une personnalité en tout point remarquable de notre continent, ma sœur, Madame Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, en qualité de directrice générale de l'OMC. Il se trouve aussi que ce grand événement se déroule dans un pays arabe, ami et frère des Comores, avec lequel j'entretiens les meilleures relations avec ses plus hauts dirigeants. Mais aussi, au moment où l'Afrique a décidé de mettre dans cette priorité la création de la zone de libre-échange continental africain, la ZLECAf, vous pouvez alors imaginer le grand plaisir que j'ai aujourd'hui à prendre part à cette cérémonie consacrant cette admission officielle. Altesse, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le chemin visant à faire de l'Union des Comores le 165e membre de l'OMC est l'aboutissement d'un processus parsemé de concessions, de clarifications, d'engagements spécifiques, mais il a aussi et surtout été fait de volonté partagée, de coopération et de partenariat mutuellement bénéfiques. En effet, notre requête d'adhésion à l'OMC a été introduite il y a 17 longues années et sous mon impulsion, le gouvernement a présenté en 2016 l'aide-mémoire sur notre régime de commerce extérieur en vue de donner un souffle nouveau à ce processus. Ainsi, cette importante adhésion que nous célébrons aujourd'hui est l'aboutissement heureux de négociations intenses menées au sein du groupe de travail sur l'accession des Comores. Mesdames et Messieurs, honorables assistants, l'adhésion acquise, nous entamons dorénavant la phase la plus essentielle, celle de la mise en œuvre des engagements en vue de permettre à l'Union des Comores de jouir pleinement des opportunités offertes par le commerce international, mais aussi d'apporter sa pierre à l'édifice. Il s'agira de mobiliser les partenaires au développement autour des besoins en assistance technique et des ressources financières nécessaires pour conduire les réformes permettant de nous conformer aux règles multilatérales du commerce et aux meilleures pratiques en la matière. Il s'agira également de développer une bonne stratégie de communication en vue d'une appropriation effective de ce nouveau statut par le peuple comorien. Notre conviction est que l'adhésion des Comores à l'OMC sera immensément bénéfique à toute notre économie, aux entreprises privées et publiques et aux consommateurs. Elle contribuera aux efforts de diversification des partenariats commerciaux de notre pays, à son intégration dans les chaînes de valeur régionales, continentales et mondiales. Avec l'adhésion à l'OMC, mon pays poursuivra ses objectifs de développement durable et d'éradication de la pauvreté, notamment en accélérant les investissements dans des secteurs stratégiques tels que l'agriculture, le tourisme, l'environnement, le secteur maritime et l'économie numérique. D'ores et déjà, des réformes entreprises dans le cadre de ce processus ont généré des résultats tangibles. À titre d'illustration, notre dispositif juridique et réglementaire ainsi que nos politiques ont été progressivement adaptés aux meilleurs standards internationaux. Pour sa part, le secteur privé aspire à un régime commercial plus prévisible et plus transparent, aussi avec la plateforme offerte par le système commercial multilatéral. Notre nation insulaire pourra-t-elle faire valoir sa voix au même titre que ses partenaires commerciaux internationaux? Cette adhésion renforcera encore davantage la visibilité de l'Union des Comores sur la scène internationale après la présidence comorienne de l'Union africaine qui vient juste d'arriver à son terme. Cela dit, mon pays en tant que nation dont l'ambition est de parvenir à l'émergence à l'horizon 2030, suivant une transformation structurelle de l'économie, pourra également apporter une grande contribution à l'édifice de l'OMC. D'abord, par son appartenance à plusieurs communautés économiques régionales et à des organisations internationales telles que l'ONU, l'Union africaine, la francophonie, la Ligue arabe et j'en passe. Ensuite, parce que cette nouvelle donne intervient dans un contexte de mise en œuvre de l'ASLECAF qui sera bénéfique aux partenaires commerciaux régionaux comme internationaux au pays. En effet, la Banque mondiale estime que la mise en œuvre de réformes ambitieuses entraînerait la hausse de l'investissement privé de 13% du PIB d'ici 2030. Et c'est pourquoi mon gouvernement fera de l'attraction des investissements directs étrangers une priorité pour favoriser la réalisation de ces performances macroéconomiques. En outre, en application des règles de l'OMC, des réformes seront engagées dans le secteur des services pour attirer les idées et favoriser une concurrence saine au profit des consommateurs et des producteurs. Honorable Assistance, Mesdames et Messieurs, mon pays doit son adhésion à l'OMC à la volonté, à l'accompagnement d'acteurs nationaux comme internationaux, à qui je rends un hommage appuyé pour le soutien indéfectible. Je pense en priorité au premier président du groupe de travail, l'ambassadeur de Pérou, dont la mission est arrivée à terme avant la conclusion des négociations. Nous le remercions pour le professionnalisme et la détermination avec lesquels il a conduit ces négociations. À son successeur, M. Omar Ziber, ambassadeur du Royaume du Maroc et à Genève, je dis un grand merci du fond du cœur pour son engagement fraternel, sa détermination sans faille et son remarquable professionnel. Je tiens à souligner que, fort des instructions de mon frère, Sa Majesté le roi Mohamed VI, l'ambassadeur Ziber a traité le dossier comorien comme s'il s'agissait de celui de son propre pays et notre équipe comme sa propre famille, y compris l'ambassadeur Sultan Chouzour. Bien évidemment, on doit aussi énormément le succès de ces négociations à ma très chère sœur, Madame Ngozi au Congo, directrice générale de l'OMC, qui s'y est personnellement investie et notamment à travers ses conseils avisés et ses pertinentes recommandations. Je demande à l'applaudir. À vous, Madame la Directrice générale, et à vos équipes dévouées, notamment la division des accessions du secrétariat, j'exprime mes sincères remerciements et ma profonde reconnaissance. Sachez que le gouvernement comorien est très fier de cet acquis majeur et s'engage à poursuivre sa collaboration fructueuse avec l'OMC en vue de traduire en actes concrets le résultat de ces négociations. Et c'est pourquoi je suis particulièrement heureux de signer au nom de mon pays le protocole d'accession avec vous en attendant sa ratification qui suivra dans le courant du premier semestre de cette année. Je salue également le travail exceptionnel et le dévouement du gouvernement comorien en faveur de cette accession, en particulier les différents ministères de tutelle, ainsi que leurs équipes respectives et l'ambassadeur de l'Union des Comores à Genève, M. Sultan Chouzour. J'ai fait de l'adhésion de l'Union des Comores une priorité de premier plan, et c'est pourquoi je tiens à renouveler la gratitude de mon gouvernement, du peuple comorien, à l'ensemble de nos partenaires bilatéraux que multilatéraux que nous ont soutenus tout au long de ce processus. Et je voudrais vous rassurer de la disponibilité entière de mon gouvernement à poursuivre cet esprit de dialogue et de coopération dans le cadre de ce partenariat promoteur que nous venons de sceller ici à Abu Dhabi. Mesdames et Messieurs, honorables assistants, je ne peux clore mon propos tout d'abord sans féliciter mon frère, le président José Ramos Horta, pour l'accession de son pays à l'OMC et lui souhaiter bonne chance dans les actions futures à mener pour faire de ce grand acquis un vrai levier de croissance économique pour le Timor-Leste. Je ne peux clore mon propos, enfin, sans vous dire, mon frère, Cheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, ma profonde gratitude, ainsi que celle du peuple comorien pour la grande amitié que vous avez pour notre pays et son peuple. En nous faisant l'honneur, Monsieur le Président, d'abriter cette cérémonie aussi historique pour nous Comoriens dans la splendide ville d'Abu Dhabi, vous continuez de traduire en actes concrets votre bienveillance et votre générosité envers l'Union des Comores et son peuple. Soyez-en vivement remerciés, tout comme l'ensemble du peuple frère des Armates Unis. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to express my warmest appreciation to President Azali for his address. I would now like to take up the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. I would like to recall that on the 11th of January 2024, the Working Party approved a referendum the accession package of Timor-Leste. The report of a working party is now before the Ministerial Conference in document WT/AC/TLS/34 WT/MIN24/4 and Addenda 1 and 2 for consideration and adoption. I would like to invite the chairperson of the Working Party of the Accession of Timor-Leste, Ambassador Roy of Portugal, to introduce the report of the Working Party. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayed, Chair of the Ministerial Conference, Your Excellency Mr. Azali Assoumane, President of Comoros, Your Excellency Mr. José Ramos Horta, President of Timor-Leste, Your Excellency Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Francisco Cabo Alilai of Timor-Leste, Honorable Ministers, Director General, General Council Chairperson, distinguished delegates and guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Chair of the Working Party on the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, I am honored to present the accession package of Timor-Leste and to report on the conclusions and recommendations of this package. The Working Party was established in December 2016 to examine Timor-Leste's request for WTO accession. Since its first meeting held in October 2020, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, the Working Party has a total of 7 meetings, with the final meeting held just last month, concluding the accession negotiations in a record time of 3 years and 3 months. This impressive achievement is the result of Timor-Leste's strong commitment and members' unshaken support to this LDC accession. The results of the negotiations constituting the terms of accession are contained in the following documents. The report of the Working Party, circulated in document WT/ACC/TLS/34, WT/MIN24/4, the schedules of concessions and commitments on goods, contained in document WT/ACC/TLS/34 add 1, and WT/MIN24/4 add 1, and the schedule on specific commitments on services contained in documents WT/ACC/TLS/34 add 2, and WT/min24/4 This package was adopted ad referendum by the Working Party at its final meeting held on the 11th of January 2024. The adopted report contains in its appendix the draft decision for the Ministerial Conference and the draft protocol of accession. The protocol incorporates by reference the specific commitments undertaken by Timor-Leste in the report of the Working Party. By this action, the Working Party completed its mandate and forwarded the document to the 13th Ministerial Conference for action. Mr. Chairman, during the course of the accession negotiations, Timor-Leste has done impressive work in a number of areas. This includes the adoption of WTO consistent legislation, with over 330 legal pieces being notified to the Working Party, setting a new standard for other accessions. Timor-Leste has also undertaken several first-exceeding LDC commitments in areas such as the Information Technology Agreement, Services Domestic Regulation, and Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, making a significant contribution to strengthening the rules-based multilateral trading system. It is my assessment that this accession package has set a clear roadmap for sustained domestic reform in Timor-Leste to promote economic growth, stability, and peace. Before I conclude, I would like to recognize the political leadership provided by President José Ramos Horta throughout this process. He even participated in a few Working Party meetings. His vision that WTO membership is a stepping stone for Timor-Leste's goal to join ASEAN has served as a key driving force in the process. I would like to pay tribute to Timor-Leste's devoted and committed team under the chief negotiation, Deputy Prime Minister Francisco Caboaldi, who led the process in the final critical stage, and Minister Joaquim Amaral, who led before that. This team has done an exemplary job working often around the clock in Dili and in Geneva, especially during the final months. Our members also deserve a lot of credit. They supported and worked hard with Timor-Leste, demonstrating goodwill and pragmatism to overcome challenges and enable the smooth conclusion in the accession process. I would also like to place on record my deep appreciation to Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala and the WTO Secretariat, particularly the Accessions Division, who played a key role in the process. In closing, in my capacity as Chair of the Working Party of the Accession of Timor-Leste, I have the privilege to recommend the report of the Working Party and the drafted decision for adoption and the draft protocol for approval by the Ministerial Conference. I thank you.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to thank Ambassador Roy for having served as a chairman of this Working Party for the last 5 years. I would like now to turn an action by the Ministerial Conference on Timor-Leste's WTO accession in accordance with the decision-making procedures under Article 9 and 12 of the WTO agreement agreed in November 1995, WT/L/93. I therefore invite the Ministerial Conference to adopt the report of the Working Party as a whole in the document WT/ACC/TLS/34, WT/MIN24/4 and its addenda 1 and 2. Adopt the draft decision on the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste as appended to the report of the Working Party, and approve the draft protocol of accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste is also appended to the report of the Working Party. The Ministerial Conference so agrees. It gives me a great pleasure once again to welcome the decision we have just taken, this time on the accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste to the World Trade Organization. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my congratulations to His Excellency President Jose and his entire team, and to the people and government of Timor-Leste. Excellencies, the decision we have just taken on the accession of Comoros and an island LDC in Africa and accession of Timor-Leste an island in LDC in Asia, testifying to the world's confidence in the WTO and multilateral trading system. I strongly believe that through their future membership in WTO, both Comoros and Timor-Leste will have stable and predictable frameworks for economic engagement with other nations, which will boost trade, growth, and prosperity. With regard to the further steps toward Timor-Leste's formal entry as a WTO member, as in the case of Comoros, the signing ceremony will take place immediately following this session. The government of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste will then submit the protocol for ratification by its legislative assembly. Timor-Leste will become a member of the WTO 30 days following the deposit of instrument of acceptance of the protocol. With these words, it is with great pleasure that I would now like to invite His Excellency Jose Manuel Ramos, the President of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, to proceed to the podium to address the ministerial conference. Sir, you have the floor.
Excellency Chairperson of the 13th Ministerial Conference, Dr. Thani bin Ahmed, Excellency Dr. Ngozi Okonjo, Director General WTO, Excellencies Ministers, Excellency, Monsieur le Président de la République des Comores, pays frère. We are situated in the Indian Ocean. Je vous félicite chaleureusement de ces acquis d'adhésion à l'OMT. My warmest greetings to my President of my national parliament, the Deputy Prime Minister, and ministerial colleagues, members of parliament, who took the time to come to this event. I warmly thank the host country and authorities, as well as WTO conference organizers, for the warm reception accorded to me and my delegation. I warmly congratulate the host government and WTO Secretariat for the successful preparation of this ministerial conference, a historic moment for my country as we inch towards integrating into the global economy and trade. Our Prime Minister, Xanana Guzmão, founding father of the country, would have been most pleased to be here leading the Timor delegation, but with a full domestic agenda, he asked me to be here today. I'm accompanied by the President of National Parliament, Dr. Fernanda Lai. I wish to add that we have 34% of our members of Parliament are women. And many of the cabinet members, the most important ones, are actually women also. In my own office, the second person in charge, chef de cabinet, the third person in charge, and the fourth person in charge are all women. And also with us, with me, Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Development Coordination, His Excellency Francisco Lai. They all work very hard for us to be here today. We of Timor-Leste, the newest country in Asia, are strong believers in regional and international economic integration, the multilateral trading system, in particular ASEAN, in our region. Timor-Leste obtained our first WTO observer status in December 2016. So today, I and the whole delegation are overwhelmed with joy to be witnesses as WTO members officially adopt our accession package, sealing Timor-Leste official membership in the organization. Timor-Leste WTO membership marks a major step towards trade liberalization, integration in the global economy, access to international markets. Membership helps leverage the ongoing improvements in our infrastructure, human capital development, administrative capacity, growth, and economic diversification. The support extended by the international community enables us to undertake institutional reforms, adopt adequate legislation, enabling bureaucracy, administration simplification, enhancing human resources, expanding infrastructure development, thus aligning with WTO principles. My deepest appreciation for the active engagement of WTO Secretariat under the visionary, steady leadership of the Director General, Dr. Ngozi. I have had the privilege in meeting the DG on several occasions in different cities, in different countries in the world. When Dr. Ngozi demonstrated her unequal leadership, I thank you, Director General, for being such a strong advocate for WTO accession, as you are a strong advocate for the multilateral system of cooperation. This accession today contributes to Timor-Leste's ASEAN membership, which we hope will take place in 2025. My special thanks go also to members of Timor-Leste Working Party, chaired by Ambassador Rui Macieira of Portugal. Muito obrigado, caro amigo, Rui Macieira, for their exceptional commitment in support of our accession towards the end of this current phase of our accession journey. Some words of recognition are due to Timor-Leste Permanent Representative to the UN in Geneva, Ambassador Lourdes Bessa, for her tireless leadership, hard work, and of her mission staff. I am particularly pleased that our WTO accession is taking place in Abu Dhabi, birthplace of Sheikh Zayed, who unified the peoples of the Emirates. He dreamed of and built a country that is today a beacon of human fraternity and peace. And in pursuing this dream, he unified the Emirates, founded the United Arab Emirates, and it was here that the historic Declaration of Human Fraternity, co-authored by His Holiness Papa Francisco and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Cairo, Professor Ahmad Tayeb, was signed on 19 October 2019. The dream of Sheikh Zayed, his legacy, is continuing with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, President of the United Arab Emirates. So it couldn't be more symbolic, significant that we are here today. Timor-Leste accession in itself is bringing benefits to the country, and we expect that further benefits will materialize in due course. Being a member is essential to unleash the potential of our economy in several sectors. We are committed to diversify our economy, become a part of the value chain of global economies, to improve the well-being of our people through trade. But we all face challenges and opportunities. But the challenges are far too great and complex for us in the LDC, SEED's G7 fragile states. Some challenges are common to much of the world. Challenges related to climate change, unstable weather patterns, highly infectious global pandemics, outbreak of armed conflicts, unmanaged global rivalries, some of which have escalated into catastrophic wars unseen in decades, with obvious impact on the global economy, causing catastrophic supply chain disruption, rising costs of basic commodities, and impoverishing further the hundreds of millions living in abject poverty at the world's edge, at the edge of the world. In addition, as if the global landscape is not sufficiently dark, an extremely worrying challenge is the global debt crisis, which stands today at US $313 trillion in 2023. This, according to the latest report of the International Institute of International Finance. This represents 330% of global GDP, of which 55% are from developed markets. Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we, the international community, we seem to be sleepwalking right into another financial meltdown, which could be far worse than all previous ones. Timor-Leste debt, our debt is a mere 13%, and none to commercial banks. We have a highly praised, well-managed sovereign fund. In the midst of the above-mentioned challenges, opportunities may arise also, and we must know how to seize these opportunities for our benefit. Small economies must find ways to complement each other to enhance our respective economies through joint investments, joint ventures, and trade. However, G7 and G20 countries, commercial banks holding developing countries' debt, should have written off the entire global debt of developing countries. In addition, new financial mechanisms should have been created or should be created in the order of $1 trillion every 3 years to support green economies, renewable energy transitions, primary education and primary health care, agriculture, food security, clean water, sanitation, global vaccination programs to end preventable illnesses, support for women during pregnancy and after, support programs towards elimination of child malnutrition and stunting, child labor and child slavery, support for women in rural areas, and support small to medium-sized women's businesses. Anything less would be band-aid. Can the international community mobilize these funds needed? Yes, we can. A combination of governments, banks, public and private sector, the billionaires of the world. After all, at each crisis, the 2008-2009 subprime and other financial crises, and for the ongoing wars, particularly Gaza and Ukraine, and many other wars, hundreds of billions of dollars have been found to fund unwinnable wars. So let's rise to the ethical, moral challenge and invest in the most just, necessary war, a clearly winnable war, the war against extreme poverty. In closing, my country continues to count on members and partners' support during the post-accession phase. As an LDC, we recognize our weaknesses and need for tailored support to leverage domestic reforms harmonized with the WTO rules and regulations. As a new member, we will continue to learn from our older peers with the hope to bring in additional values, thus contribute to further strengthen the cooperation between our nations. Last but not least, a boutique Timor Cafe is right outside. Timor-Leste, besides some oil and gas, we have the best coffee in the world. I know some here, Colombians, Panamanians, Costa Ricans, Brazilians, Papua New Guinea, Jamaica, Kenya, Ethiopia, they all would disagree with my claims. But let me tell you one thing. Papa Francisco, he drinks only Timor coffee. So, I advise you all also to drink only Timor coffee. May God the Almighty and the Merciful bless us all. Thank you.
On behalf of the Ministerial Conference, I would like to express my warmest appreciation to President Jose Manuel Ramos Horta for his address. I would now invite my dear sister, Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi, the Director General of WTO, to add her own words of welcome. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Excellency MC13 Chair. This is a very, very wonderful moment for me, and I know for all of us. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so delighted and touched to join the MC13 Chair in congratulating the governments and peoples of Comoros and Timor-Leste, and in welcoming them as new members of our WTO family, bringing our total membership to 166. Woo! It is wonderful that President Azali Assoumani of Comoros and President Jose Ramos Horta of Timor-Leste are present here. Both of them were absolutely pivotal in bringing their respective countries' accession processes to the finish line. Without their personal involvement and their dedication, we could not have done it. To the officials from both countries who have been working tirelessly for years now, I offer my congratulations, my gratitude, and my encouragement. Although this might not be what you want to hear right now, this is just the beginning, but it's a very, very good beginning. But before I go further, I want to thank the chairpersons of the two working parties, Ambassador Omar Znibir of Morocco, who unfortunately cannot be with us today, and Ambassador Rui Macier of Portugal. Without their dedication and leadership, today's accession would not have been possible. And of course, special credit also goes to WTO members, particularly members of the working parties, and to the secretariat teams who were supporting them, ably led by the Accession Division. Today's achievements are truly a collective endeavor, one we can all be proud of. Accessions have always been a barometer of confidence in the WTO and the rules-based multilateral trading system. It is encouraging that despite all the challenges facing multilateral cooperation today, our organization is continuing to move towards universality. A diverse array of countries continue to link their own growth and future prosperity to the WTO's core values of openness, transparency, good governance, and the rule of law. I hope that Comoros and Timor-Leste will serve as inspiration for the 22 governments waiting to join, especially other LDCs and fragile and conflict-affected states. I said before that accession is a beginning. The benefits of WTO membership are not automatic, and our new members will need a support network to continue domestic reforms and to operate effectively in the global economy. The Secretariat is already stepping up its assistance in this regard, and it is my sincere hope that the rest of the members will provide technical assistance and supply-side support to accompany these two LDCs in the post-accession phase. Finally, as I said in my opening remarks, it has been 8 years since we last welcomed members, the longest gap yet. I hope we are not going to wait 8 more years. not if I have anything to do with it. Comoros and Timor-Leste have demonstrated that countries facing daunting and unique challenges can overcome them with political will and determination on the part of acceding governments, together with adequate support from the international community. International organizations and development partners can make an important difference here by offering enhanced and coordinated technical assistance and capacity building to countries seeking to join the WTO. The two heads of state here are both presidents with whom I have worked closely. And in the case of President Ramos Horta, as he said, we've known each other for quite some time. I really want to say a special thank you to them for persevering and to their staff, because if not for their belief, we wouldn't have been able to get here. On behalf of the membership and the organization, I'm delighted to say to Comoros and Timor-Leste, Karibu and Benvindo, welcome. And let's all try to make joining the WTO even more special by delivering results here in Abu Dhabi this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. This is indeed a very positive moment for the organization. I believe that members would like to express their welcome to both Comoros and Timor-Leste. However, due to the time constraint, if any member wishes to convey any congratulations remark, I invite you to provide your written statement to the Secretariat to be reflected in the official record. I invite everyone to remain seated as we proceed with the signing ceremonies by the Presidents of Comoros and Timor-Leste with the WTO Director General.
Congratulations once again to Comoros and Timor-Leste on this milestone. As just announced by the MC13 chairperson, we will now proceed to the signing ceremonies of the Protocols of Accession. We will start with the signing ceremony for the Protocol of Accession of the Union of the Comoros, presided by the Director General. Let me invite His Excellency President Azali Assoumani to join the Director General at the signing table. I now invite the Director General to proceed with the signing ceremony. Let us now turn to the signing ceremony for the Protocol of Accession of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste, presided by the Director General. I'd like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister, accompanied by His Excellency President José Manuel Ramos Horta, to join the Director General at the signing table. I now invite the Director General to proceed with the signing ceremony. Excellencies, distinguished guests, this concludes the accession ceremonies segment. Let us now proceed to the final segment of the opening session, which is the ceremony on the deposit of instruments of acceptance of the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. Let me therefore invite the Director General to address the Ministerial Conference on this important matter.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm pleased to announce that today there will be 9 members who will be depositing their instruments of acceptance. They will be part of the growing number of ratifiers, together with those who ratified this year: Cabo Verde, Barbados, Dominica, Senegal, Uruguay, and most recently Haiti. As I said, the number we're going to have this week is 70 because there are 1 or 2 ratifiers who will not be giving their instrument today, but tomorrow or next. We have made substantial progress, and we have been successfully able to use this ministerial as a hook for trying to get members to ratify. Not because we're just interested in ratification for its sake, but because we're dealing with an opportunity to help improve the sustainability of our oceans. So I'm very grateful to all the countries, the 70 countries who would have ratified by the end of MC13. I'm also grateful to all those who have taken the opportunity to support the Fisheries Fund, which is designed to assist developing members to implement the disciplines in the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, Part 1. And the most recent deposit has come from the Republic of Korea with a contribution of $1 million to the funding mechanism. Actually, the most recent is from the UAE, which has deposited also $1 million to the mechanism. So I want us to give them a round of applause. And now, to deposit their instruments today, I have the pleasure to announce the names of the following countries, and I'd like the ministers to come one by one. Let me announce the names first of those who are depositing: Saudi Arabia, Brunei Darussalam, Chad, Rwanda, Togo, Turkey, Malaysia, Norway, Uruguay. So we will start with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
I think you have to go there to announce the country. Better for you instead of you announcing the names.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
I will now invite the head of delegation of Brunei Darussalam. I now invite the head of delegation of Malaysia. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Chad. We'll come back to Chad. I'll now invite the delegation of Norway. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Rwanda. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Togo. I'll now invite the head of delegation of Turkey. I now invite the head of delegation of Uruguay. So congratulations once again to all our new depositors of instruments of acceptance. Let me now invite the ministers of heads of delegation of WTO members who have deposited their instruments of acceptance to come to the stage for a family photo.
Thank you so much. I now declare that the opening session of the 13th Ministerial Conference closed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes while our guest can get the headsets. I think we're okay. Okay.
Okay. Oh, there's more.
So let's start this again now that we have headsets for everyone. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this press conference for the opening of the World Trade Organization's 13th Ministerial Conference. We just concluded the opening session of MC13, which saw the formal acceptance of Comoros and Timor-Leste as the WTO's newest members, and the acceptance of 8 new instruments of acceptance for the entry into force of the WTO's Fisheries Subsidies Agreement. So we're off to a very good start. I'm pleased to welcome His Excellency, Dr. Thani Ahmed Al Sayudi, the United Arab Emirates Minister of State for Foreign Trade and the Chair of MC13, and Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of the WTO. His Excellency will start with an opening statement, followed by the Director General. We will then proceed to questions. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excellency Dr. Ngozi, the Director General of WTO, my friends and colleagues from the media, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today, especially those who have come from across the world to be here in Abu Dhabi. Please enjoy your time and looking forward to work with you all. It's an honor for us to be hosting the 13th WTO Ministerial Conference, which is taking place against the backdrop of profound change in global commerce. The UAE has been a member of WTO since its inception in 1996. And since our accession, we have engaged constructively and enthusiastically in its deliberation processes because we believe in an open, predictable, rule-based trading system. We very much welcome the opportunity to host the organization's highest decision-making body and to help advance its objective. And in the upcoming days, the delegation will build on the months of work already undertaken in Geneva to try and achieve consensus on a range of outcomes. This necessity for consensus is a great strength of the organization. Every agreement that makes up the WTO is approved by every member. Naturally, the need to find consensus can also make it difficult to predict exactly what form of outcomes from ministerial conferences will take. 166 members brings many perspectives, priorities, and ideas to the table, and reconciling these requires tremendous statecraft and creativity from all sides. I have engaged closely with the memberships in recent months, and I know all delegations have brought these vibes with them to Abu Dhabi. Before opening the floor to the questions, I want to take the opportunity to thank my dear sister, Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi, the Director General, for her leadership, excellent teamwork spirit, here persistent on pushing the agenda forward, and whatever we're seeing here today, it's because her personal involvement in every aspect of the organization. Special thanks, Dr. Ngozi, from my heart, and I'm sure we have a long journey together, even beyond MC13. I want as well to thank the hard worker staff of the WTO Secretariat for their excellent support and collaboration, and for sure the tireless officials at my team at the Ministry of Economy, as well as Abu Dhabi Department of Economy, and the whole government who have worked long and hard to make everything ready for this week. I would also like to thank the many intergovernmental businesses and civil society organizations that have organized side events, panels, meetings in the margin of this conference, some of them in partnership with our own private sectors. Though the WTO is a member-driven organization, ministerial conferences are about the whole world coming together to tackle the pressing issue and trade. I'm very grateful to see many distinct voices represented. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a long week of negotiation ahead of us, and the final outcome may not be certain until the final swing of my gavel. However, at a time of uncertainty, it is heartening to see ministers from all over the world gathering here in Abu Dhabi in a good faith efforts to find consensus. I'm looking forward to working with them, with Dr. Ngozi and her team, to find consensus and taking the commitments on the global trade forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I would now like to give the floor to the Director General for her opening statement.
Thank you, Dan, and welcome. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, so it's good to see you. Welcome to Abu Dhabi. For my opening, I just want to make 3 points. I think the first is that the multilateral trading system has shown a lot of resilience and is delivering in spite of challenges in the global environment. And the multilateral trading system with the WTO underpinning it is still delivering 75% of world trade, still on WTO terms. We just saw 2 new members, Comoros and Timor-Leste, join the organization, and we have 22 more in the queue. And you can see the joy with which they are celebrating, still celebrating their having joined. Joining the WTO is not an easy task. Timor-Leste actually is one of the fastest, having taken 7 years. For Comoros, 17 years. And you have to ask yourself, why do countries go through this? It is because they find value in the organization and because they find value in the multilateral trading system. So we have a lot of uncertainty. We made these forecasts of 0.8% trade volume growth for 2023, which we feel are going to be the performance will be weaker than that. We're still revising our forecast, and we also think that we'll come below the 3.3% growth that we forecast for this year. That being said, what is remarkable to all of us is how resilient global goods trade has been. If you look at the numbers, they're still at record highs. So helping businesses, households to adjust to the shocks that we've seen in the global economy is one thing the multilateral trading system underpinned by the WTO is doing. That's my first message, resilience. My second message is, even though we've seen this resilience, this is not a time for complacency. And I said this in my speech. We know that multilateralism is under attack in many quarters. We know that the open trading system, which I've always termed a global public good, that was created 75 years ago, continues to be questioned in some quarters. And it's not just the WTO, it's the whole multilateral system, the financial institutions. Multilateralism is under attack. And yet, cooperation on trade is vital. If we didn't have it, it would be very difficult for parts of the world to adjust. If we fragment, it would be very costly to the world, both developed and developing countries. The work we did that showed you lose 5% of global GDP in the longer term. I want to recall that to people. So we need to avoid fragmentation, and we need to focus on cooperation on trade. This is the second message. Let's not take the system for granted. Let's not be complacent. We really have to work to keep it going. If we don't have it, I think that livelihoods will be more difficult and more costly. As you have seen, it would be much more difficult to achieve some of the global objectives we have on climate change, on managing pandemics, and so on. So yes, we need to repair the multilateral trading system and reform it, make it fit for purpose, which is what we're doing, but don't take it for granted. My third message then just follows that, which is that international cooperation matters. I said in my speech that it's good to have strategic competition. This is what we're about, but we also need to remember when strategic cooperation matters. So these are the three. Without global cooperation, we'll not be able to solve many of the problems we have. And that's why coming together to strengthen the multilateral trading system is important. So resilience, cooperation, and no complacency. Those are the 3 words.
Thank you. Thank you, Director General. We have a few minutes for questions, so I will ask you, the ground rules are please raise your hand, and when called upon, please state your name and your media organization. And I'd like to underline that only journalists with the green media badge may ask questions. So our first question will go to Mustafa Abdel from Al Ittihad. Mustafa, you have the floor. We'll have a microphone brought to you.
Thank you, Dan. Dr. Ngozi, we are the first day of MC13. How do you see the kick of the first day, and to what extent you are optimistic about the outcome of Abu Dhabi Declaration for MC13, and what is still needed to keep the world trade more effective? Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Mustafa, for that question. Yes, you're right. You asked about the first day. I don't know how many of you were in the room, but I've not seen such excitement in a long time. And I think there were 2 things that were exciting. So if you're there, you'll see for yourself. The accessions, because we haven't had any accessions in 8 years. This generated a lot of excitement. 2, the ratifications, which we celebrated. By the end of this week, we will now have 70 ratifications. That leaves us only 40 for fisheries subsidies 1, which means that we're within sight of being able to ratify the fisheries subsidies agreement. And if we do that, it will be the fastest ratification. So I think those things, you know, have generated a lot of excitement. You know, how do I see things going for the rest of the meeting? Well, we have a number of very important deliverables on the table. About sustainability of our oceans. Our oceans are becoming 50% overfished. So what we're doing here is very important for people's lives. 260 million people depend on fisheries. So that's just fish 1. If we close it, this is what we're doing, delivering for people. Agriculture is another area that has been difficult. And I want to remind you again that for 20 years, we've not been able to land an agreement on agriculture. You know, so people tend to forget these things and take things for granted. I'm very proud that after 20 years, we're able to break the back of fisheries, and we're working to deliver fish too. Similarly, agriculture is very difficult. You know, it's a domestic issue for every country, so that's why it's difficult. For the first time, we have members negotiating off the same text. We were not able to do that in MC12 even. It fell up, and now we've got that, and we were cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to land an agreement, even to provide a basis for continued work in the future. That would be huge. We are not able to do that at MC12 for agriculture. Having members negotiate off of the same text is already a huge achievement. That's just 2 things that we're working on. I just want to mention another one. We're hoping that there's an investment facilitation agreement, which is a plurilateral agreement, but it has 126 members working on it, 3/4 of the membership. This is big. Just closing that here, which they are trying to do, would be very significant because it clears away the bureaucracy in the way of investment in many of the developing countries.
Thank you, Director General. Doug Palmer from Doug Palmer from Politico, you have the floor. If we can have a microphone for the gentleman in the center.
May I? I'm very sorry.
Hi, thanks for taking my question.
Hi, Doug.
Dr. Ngozi, there's a lot of commentary these days about how the U.S. has sort of stepped back, abdicated its traditional leadership role at the WTO. I wonder what's your view of that? And if it is the case, do you see other countries that are stepping forward to sort of fill that gap? China, for example, or maybe the EU, or is there a bit of a leadership vacuum at the WTO? And I'm not referring to you, I'm just referring to the members themselves right now. Is there a problem that there's really no leader among the countries at the WTO, and that's why it's hard to get things done?
I want to comment on this, and then I'd like His Excellency to please also chime in. I think that during my time, I've been 3 years here, I've seen the U.S. engage more. And I have to say that they've been quite constructive. And I said it in my speech. We've seen them engaging on the issue of dispute settlement reform, which for a number of years they did not. Now they're engaging, and they've been working actively. They are very engaged in fisheries, for instance, and they've been very active on that. I would say that across the board, I see a constructiveness and an engagement of the U.S. So I'm slightly not of the opinion that, they are not engaging or showing lead. I think things have changed. Doug, that may have been the case in the past, but it's not the case now. So that's my answer. Is there a leadership vacuum? I don't think so. Why I spoke about leadership in my speech, only to urge members to be leaders in terms of being able to make the necessary trade-offs that they need to make. If you're a leader, it means you have to give up something you want sometimes or compromise on it so that others may get what they want. That's what I was referring to. But I'm just trying to think carefully through your question. I don't think there's a leadership vacuum. I think we have several countries who consider themselves leaders, and they've not abdicated. They just need to exercise the leadership in a way that will help us get results. So that's not why we're not getting, or there are no results. The ability to make the requisite trade-offs. And I think, as I told you in the corridor, I'm cautiously optimistic that they will be doing those trade-offs. Excellency.
I just want to add to what Her Excellency Dr. Ngozi said. The model or the work, the mechanism here within the organization is by consensus. So things has to be agreed upon the member states. In MC12, we managed to have a package which was agreed among the member states. So everyone showed the leadership. And the presence of all member states plus observers here today showed that the momentum is there as well to continue with the same direction. At the end of the day, it's not only one country that's going to take the whole decision. It's the consensus that is going to move things forward, which we want to have at the end of the MC13.
Can I just add something very quickly? His Excellency raised a very important point, the consensus decision-making at the WTO. Of course, it makes things quite challenging. But I have to say that we're a unique organization. This is the only place now where the smallest, poorest country has the same voice as the biggest, richest one. And I'm rather proud of it. It makes things tough. But it also means that everybody has an equal respect and equal ability to participate. And that is very rare. And that's why the WTO is precious.
Thank you. We're going to take a question in the front, the gentleman from Togo, whose name I cannot recall. I believe he will pose his question in French, if I'm not mistaken. Vous parlez en français?
Komigada du Togo. Oui, oui. Madame la directrice, Je vous salue avec tout le respect possible. Alors, vous avez, l'OMC pense lancer, ou bien vous avez déjà lancé, le fonds des femmes exportatrices dans l'économie numérique. Alors, vous savez, quand on prend les PME, ce sont les femmes qui contribuent beaucoup à l'agriculture, même au commerce. Mais malheureusement, ces femmes ne maîtrisent pas l'outil informatique, ne disposent même pas de l'Internet jusqu'à se connecter et participer quand même à l'économie numérique. Alors, dites-moi, avec ce fonds, qu'est-ce que vous voulez faire pour que ces femmes puissent sortir de ces problèmes d'accès à l'Internet pour arriver à avoir, par exemple, à pouvoir exporter et avoir les informations nécessaires et accroître, par exemple, leur rentabilité?
Bon, merci pour la question. Je vais répondre en anglais. Je pense que c'est plus facile pour moi, plus vite, plus rapide. I don't agree with you that women are not involved in trade. Both of us are from West Africa. Who trades in West Africa? It's the women. You know, so they do all. They do agriculture, like you said, but they are also in trade. So, but you're right. We need to also help those who are involved purely in agriculture. Most of the women, they farm, they process, right? And they sell in the market. So what we are trying to do with this fund initially is to first help those who are already trading digitally. You know, the idea is to scale them up because many of them have very small scale businesses. And most of the time when they want to expand, they don't have access to funding, to financing. So we are going to target those who are already doing business digitally. Then for those who are not, we have not forgotten them. We have another project with the World Bank where we are trying to help African countries get digitally connected, the digital divide, to take care of the problem you're talking about. We are starting with 9 pilot countries in Africa, and we also had a very good launch of that here. I don't know if you saw that. We had a digital trade in Africa launch. And these 9 countries, Togo is one of them. So we are going to help Togo to get the hard infrastructure to connect the country, but also the soft regulatory framework. And that is how we are going to try to work with those who don't have connectivity, because you're right. You can't trade digitally if you're not connected. So we are working from 2 ends.
Thank you. In the interest of gender balance, I'm going to start calling on some of our women reporters. So Emma Farge from Reuters, and then after I'll take the lady in the front of me.
Good morning, or sorry, good afternoon, Director General. I'm a bit jet lagged. I wanted to ask you if you're satisfied with the level of ministerial participation so far. People in the corridors are mentioning the fact that India's minister, who is a big player, is not here. Is that going to hamstring negotiations at all in the early days? And may I also ask a question for the host? I was wondering what you can do to help with negotiations behind the scenes. Do you have teams that can help put pressure on countries, or what devices do you have in place to really try to get a deal this week? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emma. Good to see you. I think the level of participations of ministers is excellent. Virtually every minister, and some have 2 who are in their delegation. Some have come with Minister of Fish and Agriculture in addition to Minister of Trade, Ministers of Foreign Affairs. I think about India, we knew ahead of time. If you recall, India is going through an election. So the minister is very politically engaged. Since he told me he's running for a seat himself, so he has to spend some time. And I know that tomorrow there was a long-planned event in Delhi, a textiles expo. He's also Minister of Textiles, so he has to be there because the Prime Minister is opening it. So there's no mystery, it's just some slight mistiming, and he will be here with us. In the meantime, India has a very able head of the delegation whom we know, the Commerce Secretary. So I think we're in good shape there. I'm not too worried about that.
Your Excellency.
So the Indian minister is coming in end of the day tomorrow, so he will be here. Regarding the second question, we do have a very strong team, which is following on the negotiation, and we're going to make sure that we provide the right platforms and environments for the member states to ensure that they speak freely with each other. And we're going to work with everyone to ensure that there's a consensus comes out from MC13.
Thank you. The lady has been very patient with me. I will give her the floor. Madame, vous avez la parole.
Merci. Je salue le présidium, surtout Madame Ngozi, pour le travail abattu jusque-là. C'est un travail de titan et je l'admire beaucoup. Félicitations, Madame. Cela dit, j'ai deux préoccupations. La première, les travaux de la conférence, 13e conférence, sont lancés ce matin. Et vous avez énuméré un certain nombre de sujets ou de questions, si vous voulez, qui seront au menu des négociations, lesquelles nous allons retenir principalement. Vous allez me dire que toutes les questions, les sujets énumérés sont importantes, mais les plus en vue. Si vous pouvez, s'il vous plaît, revenir sur quelques sujets importants, nous allons tenir compte de ça. La deuxième préoccupation, tout à l'heure, dans votre introduction, vous avez 3 objectifs, entre autres, réparer le système multilatéral commercial. Et je vous pose la question de savoir quels moyens, par quelle alchimie, vous allez réparer cela, parce que se pose toujours une question qui date déjà d'une vingtaine d'années. Même si à 2 jours, vous avez signé un partenariat sur le coton avec la FIFA, le groupe du C4 est satisfait, mais reste encore insatisfait. Parce qu'ils ont toujours réclamé quelque chose que vous savez, nous tous nous savons, la suppression des subventions des pays industriels. Parce qu'il y a les PMA qui s'efforcent, et quand on prend le groupe du C4, c'est uniquement les PMA. Et ces subventions des pays industriels plombent leur production sur le marché mondial. Donc, quelle stratégie vous allez adopter? Parce que vous voulez changer les choses. Merci, Madame.
Well, thank you for that excellent question. I think, let me start. I didn't use the word repair. I said reform. Reform is very different from repair. Benin. Enchanté, Madame. Sois le bienvenu. Donc, je dis réformer. Ça, c'est vraiment différent de l'autre. Hein? Repair is not the same as reform. So I said, we have a system, we have to reform it, and we are reforming it. Okay. But to get to your question, look, every single thing we are working on is important in the sense that it impacts on people. There are not that many things, so it's not like we have a long laundry list. We are working on delivering fisheries. You know that in Africa, we are losing $5 billion every year from illegal fishing, overfishing of our waters. And we have 12 million people that depend on fisheries for a livelihood on the continent. So this is important, that we want to do this, to get this agreement, to manage what is happening and stop that. So that's important. You just mentioned agriculture and cotton. We had the cotton event, and you're absolutely right. We are trying to approach the problem of cotton from 2 angles. One angle is development angle, and the Cotton For asked for it, which is what we are trying to do. How can we, whilst we are trying to work on the problem of subsidies, or we call it domestic support at the WTO, how can we help them do better? And one of the things that we saw is why can't we add value to the cotton in place? on the continent. We now have the African Continental Free Trade Area. If we can process the cotton and we can add value to it, we can produce T-shirts and all the other things which we sell within the internal market, but also externally in the football economy, which is worth $270 billion. And you heard Gianni Infantino, the head of FIFA, say that 70% of that economy is in Europe and very little in Africa. So we are trying to tap that. But we haven't forgotten the problem of subsidies. We are working seriously on that. But that is tied to other types of issues in the agricultural negotiations. It's tied to what we do on public stockholding, PSH, it's tied to, they're all related. It's tied to market access. So that's why, for the first time, I'm making the point that for the first time we have a text that we are working on these issues. So let's work on it. Let's see if ministers can come to an agreement that will at least give us a platform to begin to work on domestic support, on reducing those subsidies that are anti-competitive in the cotton sector. So we've not, for 20 years, we've not even had people agree on a text. Can you imagine? Not even agree on a common text. This is the first time we have people here negotiating on a common text. So that is already a major advance. And we'll see whether they can lay the foundation for more work on reducing subsidies later.
We have time for a few more questions. The gentleman in front has been patient, and as our friend from Benin has reminded me, if you could identify yourself, name and media, please. So.
I'm SM Rashidul Islam from Bangladesh, working at National News Agency.
Sorry, from where?
Bangladesh, working at National News Agency. Madam DG, WTO agreements never had any labor rights issues in them. Recent draft fisheries subsidies agreement had an issue of forced labor and prison labor. Is it a new shift from the original mandate of the WTO? Another question, does WTO focusing on more in environment protecting issues?
Well, thank you very much. I think there are some members who are negotiating, who are interested in issues of labor rights. So we'll have to see what happens in the negotiations, how this is or is not incorporated. But I want to tell you something. There is no single member who has said to me that they support the use of forced labor. None. So all the members say they have legislation that militates against forced labor. So some members are trying to see whether in the negotiations on fish this can be an issue. I don't know whether this will be the case or not. So let us see. It's members to members. I cannot predict how that will go. That's the first. And the second part was?
We got to environment.
On environment. You were asking whether the WTO is shifting to deal with environment. I'll say one word, but I want His Excellency to also add, because he has a good vantage point. Look, trade has been instrumental in helping to solve climate change issues. And we do not believe that you can really get a handle on solving environmental issues or climate change without trade. Just think of the diffusion of technology, solar panels and solar systems and other renewables. How do they get, and technologies, how do they get from places where they are made to where they are needed? It's through trade. So trade is critical and should be part of the solution to environmental problems and to climate change. So it's not that we are changing anything, it's just that it's happening already. And what we need to do is consciously look at our policies, trade policies, and see, are there any more ways that trade can help solve climate change, decarbonization, getting us to net zero by 2050. So there's no shifting. I think we're already doing it, Your Excellency.
It's not about shifting. It's about how we are looking at the picture. We can look at not only the sustainability and environment, we can look at technology as a threat, but at the same time, it can provide huge opportunities. Trade is the same when it comes to sustainability and environment. It could provide, and it is providing a lot of opportunity if we are looking at it from the angle that is positive and to push the agenda forward. So our overview of the topic and all other topics, that we always have to look at the bright side and how can we use those to flourish the growth of the global trade. And if it's going to be about sustainability, we welcome it and we're going to push that forward if it's going to bring prosperity and development to nations.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think we have time for one more question, and you've been very patient up front as well. I'll give the floor to you. If you could give us your name as well as your media, as well, please. And if we have a microphone for our friend.
Good afternoon and salam alaikum. Dina Kamel, reporter from the national newspaper in Abu Dhabi. I had a couple of questions regarding the interest of some Arab countries to become members into the WTO. We've heard that it is a little bit more difficult for some of these countries to join. If you can talk to us, please, about the barriers to entry for some of these countries and what progress they've been making so far, particularly with some of the economic and geopolitical headwinds that some of them are facing in the region. My second question is regarding the, Dr. Ngozi had mentioned that global trade in 2024 is likely to come under the previous forecast of 3.3%. Can you tell us by how much below that could be revised downwards? And finally, we heard earlier today that the UAE had put in $5 billion in various investments, and that there could be more in the pipeline. Perhaps if Minister Dr. Thani Ziyudi can tell us what to expect further investments and in which areas, please. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. The accession of countries in the Arab region is very important to the Arab members of the WTO, and I was with them yesterday in their meeting, as was His Excellency Minister Ziyudi, and this is one of the topics. That's why they are very delighted that Comoros has become a member. It's both an African and an Arab country, so it's a big celebration. But you're right, about 7 to 9 countries now, if my memory serves me, are in the pipeline. Now, you know, some of them started negotiations some time ago, and due to internal domestic issues, sometimes conflict-related or economy-related, there have been lapses in this. I mean, we have several countries, actually. We have Iraq, we have Syria, we have Libya, we have Lebanon, Sudan, to name a few, who are all trying. And because, as you mentioned, the conflict and the fragility, that sometimes holds back the progress. Because you know, in trying to accede to the WTO, it's quite arduous. You have to negotiate agreements, market access agreements with virtually most of the members. And this takes time to be able to agree with them on these things. There are various other requirements. I won't go into technical details. You have to meet, which take time. You have to pass legislation in the country to underpin these agreements. That means changing your regulatory framework and your legislative framework sometimes. And you know, politically, sometimes this can be difficult. So this is why when a member succeeds, it's such a big celebration. I think that when there's more stability in some of the countries, they'll be able to work faster. There's a delegation from Iraq, actually most of them, and they're trying to talk to us, and They want to resume. We're very eager. Lebanon had visited the other time, also wanting to revive. We are very eager. So that's where we are. I think anyone that feels they're ready to move forward, we'll work with them and try to go as fast as possible. And then you asked about the revision. We are working on it now, so I can't give you an estimate yet by how much will come under. But just looking at the headwinds, we have economic headwinds. You know that the IMF and the World Bank have revised the forecast for global growth downwards slightly. And once aggregate demand is low across the board in almost every country, this has a bearing on trade, except for the US. The US economy is doing quite well. India is doing quite well. But in all the other countries, I think we have sort of flatlining of aggregate demand, and that has a bearing on trade as well. Then we've got all these conflicts you see that I referred to, the Red Sea. We've got climate change phenomenon in the Panama Canal. So we have other types of things impinging on the supply side. That's why we think that, the risks are on the downside and will be coming in, but I can't give you the exact number. And I think the other question was for His Excellency.
Yeah, the third one is about the announcement of His Highness. We, through His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, the Foreign Affairs Minister, announced 10 million grants to some of the funds under the organization. We announced yesterday that 5 million is going to go to the digital fund for women that has been mentioned at the beginning. 4 is going to go to the integrated framework for LDCs, which is around 4 million, and 1 million is going to go to the fisheries. So that makes up the 10 million, inshallah. Beside that, this is the grants. The investments is going to move on. So we're exploring the technology, more investments, more projects with the as part of our foreign trade and foreign investments policy, and that is business as usual for us.
Okay. I'm afraid we've run out of time, so I'd like to thank His Excellency Dr. Tani Al-Zayudi and the Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, for joining us. Please consult the WTO website for updates on all the happenings at MC13. It promises to be a very busy week ahead of us, and we wish you a pleasant day. Thank you.